I want to get your quick opinion on this. So Artana says, thoughts on Wizards of the Coast folding under pressure of calls for orc sensitivity training. So Artanis is referring to the fact that, and I'm sure you have not seen this, Brett, Wizards of the Coast, they make Dungeons & Dragons. And so they are revising some of the racial descriptions of things like the Dark Elves, the Orcs. Oh, you are familiar with this story.
I had Fiend Folio as a kid. I had no idea what it was. My cousin was really into Dungeons & Dragons, but I wasn't like old enough to really appreciate it. So I flipped through and I was like, oh, okay, these are scary. But that I know, like, I read the descriptions of characters as a kid.
Yeah. Yeah, and look, so there are orcs, like these non-humans or whatever, are described generally, even up to the newest edition of Dungeons & Dragons, which is much better in terms of gender and sexuality and things like that, as sort of born inherently evil. They just are evil. And the culture is barbaric, and that reinforces it even more. So they're saying effectively they don't want to, going forward, describe some races, which in D&D means species. They're not races. They're non-human species. Dwarves, elves, halflings, things like that.
Which itself is really troubling.
It is. Fantasy for a very long time has had racial problems like that, as not being inherently evil going forward, which is a pretty big change for the game, and we'll see how it goes. I know that there has been some pushback against that, but a lot of people do like it, and D&D and other RPGs have become far more accessible with, you know, sorts of people who had not necessarily felt welcomed by those games for a very long time, have been, you know, flocking to it in droves over the past few years, and I think that this is another good step forward.
Yes. Just my really quick take on that is, if you're upset that they're changing like the fundamental like tropes, which have analogs to reality, like those things were written for those reasons in the first place. Like the reason that it was written to symbolize an evil race is because the people making it thought that certain races were evil.
Yes.
And you can still have as developed and interesting a canon by focusing on other ways to portray things that are actually happening in the world. And those are way more interesting and way more developed than just saying like, I want to be the evil people.
Mm-hmm.
You can,
or I want to kill the evil people.
Star Trek does a better job of that. It's like, what if a group became obsessed with war and all they thought about was war? What if a planet became obsessed with logic and all they did was act logically?
Yeah.
Like, it's more fundamentally based on ethos and morals and value system or whatever than
although
just like you're inherently that. I don't know.
That is true. But Star Trek has had a problem with this for a long time. Like there are sort of vaguely anti-Semitic aliens and vaguely non-white. It's not entirely clear exactly which direction they're going, but that are spoken about in sort of quasi-racist terms, which for this like elevated advanced like civilization is probably not how they should be doing it. But anyway,
I realize I'm just thinking about Eric Bana in that one movie. It's like,
go.
Oh, they seem pretty obsessed with war.
Yeah, that's
I liked it.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.